don't remember.
Hello again, friends. I'm here with Deb Sampson, who is gonna last week introduced us to using that circle of why graphic with the baptismal covenant as a way to reflect on what we have done, what we are doing, what we might like to do. And today, we're going to invite you to do the same thing using, rather than the baptismal covenant, using some of the vows from the ordination of a deacon. And I'm just pulling that up so you can take a look at it. So Deb, talk to us about this circle.
Well, this is where I came into the discernment process. And I first took that old one from last week and applied it to myself in the context of the ministry of the laity, where the ministry of lay persons, I'm reading it from the Book of Common Prayer, the ministry of the laity is to represent Christ and his church, to bear witness to him wherever they may be, and according to the gifts given to them, to carry on Christ's work of reconciliation in the world, and to take their place in the life, worship, and governance of the church. So that helped me to try to figure out where, as a lay person, I was carrying out the baptismal covenant. And that was where I started. Then I started to get really fancy and look at the one that you have on your screen, the deacon's covenant. And the ministry of the deacon, which it says in the center section there of the why statement, is to represent Christ and his church, particularly as a servant of those in need, and to assist bishops and priests in the proclamation of the gospel and the administration of the sacrament. That was a little trickier because there really aren't 6 promises that you make in the ordination of a deacon. But I think that these 6 wedges are representative of the promises, some of which continue from the laity and some of which are an adaptation.
Right, or a kind of intensification or
Yes.
a focus. Yeah.
Now, the first thing that I did before I came up with a deacon why statement, other than the red one from the Book of Common Prayer, was to look at what I was doing or what I felt comfortable with in each of those wedges. So, did I feel comfortable proclaiming the gospel? And how have I proclaimed the gospel in the past? How do I think I would proclaim the gospel in the future? I came from the Lutheran tradition many years ago, but nonetheless, as an adult in the Lutheran Church, where the lines between laity and clergy are a bit wonkier. So I have preached in the absence of a pastor. I have developed Bible studies. I have, done some things like that that I consider proclaiming the gospel. And so that's what I put there in proclaim the gospel. I've also done a lot of work in serving those in need, also in, as I alluded last week, in that area of seeking to serve, serving or seeking justice, I mean. So I have been a volunteer advocate for the poor in the legislature. I have served meals to the homeless, things like that fall in that serve those in need. I've assisted with the sacraments as a Eucharistic visitor and as a lay Eucharistic minister. So those are things that you would come in here and you'd say, these are the things I've done. What have I done in the area of doctrine, discipline, and worship? What have I done in the area of representing Christ and his church? What have I done with reading and study? How comfortable am I in those areas? What is my desire in each of those areas? And by filling in those spaces, you begin to get an idea of where your strengths and perhaps challenges lie. And at that point, you can then go into that why area and you can write your own why statement. Why do I feel qualified to consider this role of deacon?
So this is, again, it's just a tool to play around with and to notice. I would say that probably for most of these things, there will be some things in your life where in some way you already are participating in these things, right? Because it's not like a deacon's ministry is an entirely different thing than the ministry of a baptized person. Of course not. A person is a baptized person before they're ever a deacon. But just notice, where is it easy to fill in the blanks in terms of your experience and desires? Where is there a gaping hole? Where is there a radical sense of resistance? Like, oh, Jesus, please, no, never. Which doesn't mean Jesus will
agree
with that, right? Like, you're not filling out a resume. It's just a tool to be curious about and notice, where are things flowing with ease? Where are you bumping up against something that might need a little more interrogation or investigation or development? So have fun with that. We'll see you next week.